what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
You like music, you like weed, well, we gonna be good friends indeed. This is how much I like more than smoking trees. They'll make you dance the do-si-do and teach you how the chiva grows. Smoke a bowl on the 420 radio show. On Lifestyle Radio.
All right, yeah, we're here. This is what we call the pot show.
Live.
The pot show. The growing show. This is our second grow show. And so we've got two guys that know a lot already that are here every week. We've got Ross and we've got Marcel. And then I'm adding into the equation this week Mr. Gooey Rabinski. And in a minute, we're going to hear Mr. Lee's voice. Professor Lee will be joining with. I just have to call. So I'm going to let the guys say hello to Gooey, and I'm going to bring Lee in, and then we're going to start the show. Why don't we got? Is there any news that anybody wants to talk about or anything? Oh, and Mary Jane is here. Sorry, just get used to that, Mary Jane.
That's all right.
Okay.
I'm just here listening to everyone breathe.
The smartest person on the crew.
There you go.
You almost forgot.
No, I don't forget. It's just sometimes I just lag.
She's new. Al's still breaking her in.
I'm still breaking her in, yeah.
More like she's starting to break Al in.
I think that's
so. Was there anything you guys want to talk about? What's happened this week or anything like that? Ross,
I have no idea if anything happened this week.
You're usually the one that mentions
week.
stuff like that. Really, has it? I don't know. I've been hiding all week watching things like Tanked and other kind of shows.
I mean, unless you're an ACMPR applicant, it's that's pretty annoying right there. That's people are going through some pretty tough shit there with their so-called helpline. Holy shit! It's just it's got to a ridiculous level with people after 7 months being on, having their application processed. Now, when they call in to check on their status, they tell them they have to send in a photo ID before they'll share any information with them.
Oh, really? So they've added things into the equation to help, but now they've made it more difficult.
Right. So even when you do, send that ID and then they say, okay, I'm going to answer your questions, you get the same 5 pat answers that they give over and over and over to everybody. And it's just driving everybody crazy. Yeah, it's making people it's driving people to despair.
They have scripts that they go by that they are not allowed to deviate from. And if they deviate, then the managers pipe in on them.
They got a piece of paper. It's got 2 columns. And it says, on one side, it says things to say. And on the other side, it says things not to say.
Yes. They use the same scripting system at Health Canada. I guarantee you they're using the same scripting system that they use in every call center in the world.
Oh no, this is much more annoying.
Same script, but
it's the same way.
Follow the same
pattern
format
as
that, because ideally what they do is they hire a call center, give them the contract to do this job, and then tie their hands so they can't do it effectively.
Exactly. Yeah. Hello, Lee. Enter Professor Lee.
Now we've got Marianne and the professor.
Hey, there you go. I never even thought about that.
Very good.
That was a good one, Ross. That was very good. Who wants to play Gilligan?
I want to be the skipper. No, I guess Al's the skipper.
I'm the skipper.
Who can I be? Gilligan. Yeah.
No, you're not dumb enough to be Gilligan.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? Ourselves. He was actually, in some ways, he was actually the smartest one of the crew. So.
Yeah. You're going to have to explain that.
I want to, now that Lee is here, I want Lee, meet Gooey.
Hey, Dude, how are you, man?
Gooey, meet Lee.
Pretty good. I tried to friend you on Facebook, but you have the maximum number of friends, so I couldn't do it.
Oh, that's my fault.
I think I'm down a little. I started putting some stuff out about Cheryl Schumann and probably lost a couple dozen.
You probably did. Yeah. You almost lost me, buddy.
No, I'm
just
sorry.
kidding.
I joked, but okay. So now that I've made that joke, I do have to, for the record, say that she is. I'm researching her for an article. Just so happens that she kind of spends half her time in one part of the country, the other half here in Los Angeles, fairly close to me. And so I've been researching her. She's a professional business person. She's a real human being. She's not some freaking, there's just the urban legends are ridiculous. And there's a lot of lack of professionalism in journalism, unfortunately, especially when it comes to cannabis. So just don't believe all the hype, folks.
Well, I'm
She's a
looking
decent
forward
person.
to see what you write about her.
I am too, because it's she's a very interesting personality. She has a very interesting history.
She has a very interesting past as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting.
I typically take a pretty positive note with the stuff I write. So, I don't represent any urban legends or stereotypes. So I'm just trying to get down to reality.
Good.
Cool.
Good.
Works for me.
And what do
But
you,
Professor Lee? You're like the grow dude.
the grow dude? I was just going to say,
Yes,
what's Lee
what's
up
new with
to?
Professor Lee?
What's new, Professor Lee? Well, I'm down here in Arkansas, and I've been just following what the state's been doing. Monday was our deadline for filing applications for dispensaries and production centers.
Really?
And
Nice.
I'm just rounding the numbers off, but we had 200 applicants for the 32 dispensary slots and 100 applicants for the 5 production slots.
Wow, good.
Yeah, so there's going to be a few more weeks before they announce you filed, and then I think sometime around Christmas they'll make a decision, and we'll know who gets the permits and the licenses, and then they can begin building things.
Are
Yeah,
they?
so it's finally starting to happen.
Is there a lot of pushing around and paperwork and hoops that people have to jump through, or is it pretty simple?
I think I read that there was 300,000 pages of applications that were turned in on Monday. So yeah, it's a lot.
Wow.
It's you have to have $1 million worth of assets to begin with, and then there's thousands of dollars worth of permits, and it goes on and on. They want to know every single thing because it's all new. There was
That
one
sounds-
guy that. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, that sounds like a really streamlined process compared to what we got, and a real bargain too when you have to have like $20 million to get started up here.
That's
Well,
where I
no,
was getting at. Yeah.
No,
That's
they
the
may
list
still
of
need $20 million to get started down there. They've just got
Oh,
to
yeah,
show
you
that
still
they've
need
got
that.
funding.
Yeah, they just want $1 million worth of liquid assets so they can take it away from you if they need to.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's all
gotcha.
that.
Okay, that's your surety.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's you still need to spend so much money on everything else, but there are some larger spots down here. Like there's one in a town not too far from here where it's a 20-acre site the guy filed for, and I guess he's putting in greenhouses. Is what he would want to do.
I would want him to do that too.
Are they
Nice.
allowing outside growing, like under the great sun, or no?
No, it'd be greenhouses would be as close as you get. Everything has to be self-contained. It can't be visible from the public. You've got to be able to control smells, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so that's similar to here.
I think one of the reasons he's doing it way up in the country is there's a lot of chicken houses, so the smell will just be canceled out by chicken houses.
Yeah, but then your cannabis tastes like chicken shit, right?
Well, yeah, but you also have a lot of fertilizer right there next door you can buy. So
Oh, that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Lots of nitrogen.
Yeah, totally organic.
There.
they work. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
I was just gonna say they're having lots of questions, and I was gonna ask Gooey if he knew anything about like all the possibilities for water disposal, wastewater disposal. That seems to be a big issue.
I mean, water is an interesting
what
topic.
methods have you seen? Well, what methods have you seen that are like environmentally friendly for wastewater disposal? Because unfortunately, a lot of people in the the industry, they just pour the stuff down the drain and let the city take care of it. But
right,
that's, you know, a lot of stuff going into the system, and sometimes the system can't handle it. And that seems to be a big concern here is people want to know, hey, is this going to get into our groundwater supply? We've got a lot of agriculture here. We don't want it to, you know, cause problems.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't feel like a matter expert there, but I know who is. It's a client of mine in Humboldt County, Tisha Machete. She owns Ag Dynamics, which is an agricultural management consulting firm. She's one of those under 30 dynamos, just an incredibly brilliant person who's very, very passionate about her work. And I actually interviewed her for a biodynamic article for Grow Magazine in Oregon last fall, or back in the spring. Anyway, 6 months ago. And yeah, question like that, I would hit her up. She's a freaking encyclopedia.
Excellent. Yeah, I figured you would know somebody I could talk to about it. I had questions about it. I mean, I had some ideas myself, but I wanted to see if there was anything better. So, what's going on in Canada?
Well, actually, you know, I've got a question in our chat room from my buddy Dean pertaining to your conversation about Health Canada. Ross, I don't know if you can read it if you're in there. He told me, like, he just got his certificate last week. But he's been keeping me in the loop, and he's been having quite good chats, friendlies, informational. He's not had any issues at all. He called them, wanted to find out what was going on, what was taking so long. They said, blah, 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 blah. It's in the mail. It went in the mail on Monday, actually. You know?
Yeah, it is a little bit hit and miss. I mean, it depends on which particular operator you get. They range from what you just described right there, friendly and helpful, all the way to insulting and hanging up on you. Okay, so it's a crapshoot. I've heard all kinds of different stories. For the most part, you've got the automaton base, which gives you the pat robot answers, and then you've got your left fringe and your right fringe, where the ones on the one side are very helpful, and the other ones are going to hang up on you.
Yeah, because their mom didn't make them a peanut butter sandwich for lunch.
Who knows what their problem is? I'm thinking it's minimum wage. I don't know.
Yeah, that may have something to do with it. Being abused and yelled at all day long. I'm getting minimum wage for this shit.
It's a thankless job, you know. Like they put up with a lot of shit, and I can kind of see why some of them get that way. But
yeah, because I mean, it's great for somebody to say that they were treated like crap by the employee at Health Canada when they called. But my question is usually, what did you say to get treated like crap?
That's true. I mean, they tell you right up front with a recording while you're on hold waiting, you know, that they will not tolerate any abusive language or, you know, anything like that. So if you do, they will hang up on you, or they, you know, but I think they get that a lot, and they have to tolerate it to such a level that it annoys them. And after a whole day or half a day of listening to complaint after complaint after complaint, because people are trying not to swear, they're trying to be nice while they complain. Yeah. It's still annoying as hell for them, I'm sure, you know, and it's got to get to them after a while, and they've got to have a breaking point.
Oh, definitely.
But they shouldn't. I mean, get people that are trained in how to communicate, because these are sick people that are calling in who are concerned about their medicine and when they're going to be able to access
there's
it.
an or. Somebody's trying to or.
Oh,
there's an or. Somebody's in a boat.
Just fix the problem, and then they wouldn't have these phone calls.
They wouldn't have any ors then.
Exactly. There'd be no or to do.
There'd be no ors to do.
I've got answers coming to me on what the plan is. I sent a message to our nonprofit is recognized as a stakeholder organization at the Office of Medicinal Cannabis, so we have some special access with the stakeholder liaison. And basically, I sent her an email on Wednesday, which was quite lengthy, lots of bullet points, questions about why this, why that, what's the plan for this, what's the plan for that, what's the monthly goal, what's the goal for the next month, the next 6 months, the next year, give me projections, like I really laid it on her, where's the market data for the last 10 weeks, so she basically sent me a little email back right after. She said, I'm acknowledging that I've received your email. Please give me some time to come up with the correct answers. So it's like, okay, I'm waiting.
Well, it's good. It's good. It's about time that somebody has been able to walk in the door. And
yes,
and
it
actually,
hasn't been easy.
No, I know that. I mean, Lori tried while she was doing her thing in Ottawa.
Yep.
And she got to the point, I don't know if you remember, a couple of years ago, she was actually refused entry into the offices, and she had 2 appointments with 2 different senators.
Yeah,
and
she did have a purse full of cannabis.
Yes, she did. But what came out of that, and she should have been with the proper permits she also had. So she should have been able just to be able to walk in and go about her business. But they refused her entry, and she went and sat on the steps. And then one of the senators actually came out and spoke to her and sat where and had his lunch with her or whatever on the steps. So, I mean, there are some good things out of going and speaking up on the Hill. There's been a lot of stuff going on the Hill this past week. I know that Mary Jane's been kind of paying attention to that stuff.
Mm-hmm. It has to?
A little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah, well, it has to do with C-45, right? But that's more recreational.
Yeah. You're talking about the HESA hearings?
Yes, absolutely. That was last week, and this week they were discussing dispensaries' role and future in Ontario.
Wow. Was that when Mark and Jody were there or no?
Yeah. Jody spoke on the 21st and the 22nd. I think she spoke to the police.
Yeah. And that was interesting. It was like having a bulldog on a leash being held by this intelligent, bright woman.
Yeah, she's very articulate.
She is.
He did a great thing by marrying her. So,
conversely, she did a terrible thing, I think.
Well, it's nice to see that people have dedicated their lives, and they're facing life in jail now. She is so.
Wow.
I'm curious to know, guys, Gooey and Professor Lee, in your conversations, in your travels, what do people think and say about Mark and Jody Emery these days?
I'll go first, Professor.
Well, generally it's there's a lot of respect. They've been around for a long time. They've done a lot of work in the industry, and I can't remember what Mark said. It caused him some hot water a little while back. I didn't really see too much blowback from that.
Which time? Yeah, they've been doing this. They've been doing this a very long time, and there's a lot of people have ill things to say about them and him specifically. But then there are lots of people out there that stand shoulder to shoulder. And do I like the idea of being able to walk into a store, purchase what I want to purchase, and walk out and go home and medicate? Yes, and I was doing that, and I quite enjoyed it, being able to walk into the cannabis culture stores in Toronto and get my medicine and not worry about it. It opened the eyes of a lot of people, and it's just I think it's gonna take some settling time. People are upset because nobody's ever going to be happy. You're never really happy about stuff like this. You kind of just take it and move on, right? But there are some people that are just going to keep fighting the fight.
Yeah, I'm not giving up. That's for sure. Posting stuff on Facebook and Twitter.
I might stop for a nap first, but
it's not about quitting. It's not about quitting. It's about looking and being serious about what's going on. It's happening. Medical community has gotten what they've got, and they're settling into those rules and regulations for medical. We're still finding out about what's going to happen up here recreationally. And if you don't like the recreational, then get a medical. I mean, those are your choices. Or you can just stick four plants in your backyard and learn how to scrog.
Yeah. Okay. While we're on the 4 plants, Gooey and Professor Lee, what do you think about a 39-inch height limit on your 4 plants?
Well, if they could be 38 inches tall and 8 feet across.
Well, this is true, and that is definitely the talk of the town. But a plant grows, and it's kind of against nature to try to make it stop. Right?
They're coming to get you up against the wall.
Put that joint out, Gooey. Oh wait, you're legal. That's right.
Los Angeles is a noisy environment, let me tell you.
I was getting scared there.
Just as bad.
It is kind of ridiculous to put a limit on a plant when that plant has the potential to be 20 feet tall. I understand if they said, like, hey, we don't want it growing up over like a common fence where it annoys your neighbor or something. That would make sense to me. But saying, oh, it's got to be just a little over 3 feet tall and that's it, that's a little weird. But if that's, there 20 years ago, if someone said, hey, you can grow a pot plant but only make it 18 inches tall, there would be a lot of 18-inch tall plants back then. You kind of take what you can get. You deal with idiots, and after a while, if you can get it changed.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to last forever. I think the first time that somebody gets taken to court because their plant was 42 inches tall, it's going to be challenged, and it's going to be recognized for what it is, an absolutely ridiculous, arbitrary number, which invites violations of the criminal code. So,
there's also
this plant is continuing to try to violate the criminal code on your behalf, right?
Explain to the guys, because they probably haven't had this conversation, being that they're down in the States, about the fine thing, because you can actually take it a little bit further than the 4 plants if you really wanted to.
You can go up to about 60 inches, 1.5 meters. And the maximum punishment that you will face is a $200 non-criminal ticket. It's the same as if you go up to 6 plants. Again, it's a $200 non-criminal ticket. So as being in the hydroponic
misdemeanor,
business, I tell my customers that for a $200 permit, you can grow 6 plants up to 1.5 meters.
Well, how do I get that permit, they say.
Right.
It's the fine you pay if you get caught, right? That's your permit.
You see, and what are they, in reality, what are they going to do?
That's less than the price of an ounce of weed, so yeah, go for it.
Exactly, and in reality, what are they going to do? Are they going to send little people into your backyard with tape measures and yardsticks? You're going to see a bunch of elves at night. You see the weed elves out at night measuring your plants.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
It's kind of ridiculous to think of this army of inspectors going around with meter sticks, trying to catch you so they can give you a $200 ticket.
It'll be a bunch of nuns will be wandering the road with meter sticks. Smack.
You say that, but last month it rained for 2 weeks solid here. I couldn't mow my yard, and the city tried to give me a ticket for my grass being too tall.
Are you serious?
Wow, no shit.
Yeah. So I said, it's been raining for 2 weeks. I can't mow the yard. They said, well, you've got like a week to get it mowed. I mowed it that day in the rain just to get rid of it, but it's still. There's a guy in a truck driving around with a measuring stick looking at yards.
Get out.
That doesn't surprise me.
Wow. Well, that's one of those great work job projects.
There's a minimum wage job for you.
Yeah.
Working for the city, he can't get fired. So, yeah.
Yeah, but we pay taxes for that, right? Like, you guys have to pay taxes for somebody to drive around with a ruler.
Yeah, he's a city employee, so we are. I mean, I understand they don't want people like parking, broken cars in their front yards and stuff like that. And then we have all those stupid ordinances.
Right.
It was like, maybe 8 or 9 inches tall. It'd been raining nonstop. I couldn't do anything about it. But anyway,
how much was the fine?
I'm down here. I'm down here in we've actually, you can start applying for your medical cards here. Y'all were talking about that up there.
Yeah.
And here it's pretty similar to a lot of them. You have to go to a doctor and get your recommendation, and it helps if you have your pre-existing conditions on record with another doctor. You bring it in, they sign it off, then you can actually file online and get your card, which is good for a year. And you can get the card now, and it'll actually be good like a month before the product's available in the stores, and then you've got a whole year on that card.
Do you get to grow? Do you get to grow your own down there, Bob or Lee?
That was going to be issue 7. We had 2 things we were voting on: issue 6 or issue 7. They were both medical marijuana laws or ordinances, but 7 would have allowed you to grow if you lived more than 20 miles away from a dispensary, but they yanked that one away after people had already started early voting, and they said you can only vote for issue 6 now. And issue 6 does not allow you to grow. It's just the production centers and some of the dispensaries, if they're willing to pay more money. The dispensaries can grow like 50 plants, but the production centers can grow unlimited amounts.
Wow.
Yeah.
But no home growing though.
No home growing yet. I mean, in a few years, who knows? We can probably change it, especially if federal laws begin to change, which I think they probably will by 2020. The feeling I'm getting.
Yeah, like when the current presidency ends.
Oh yeah, like the next, even like in 2018, it's already becoming like a big issue. Say in Tennessee, you have a lot of people are stepping up and saying, look, if you're not pro medical marijuana, then you're probably going to lose the election. So it is becoming a pretty big, factor in elections. And I can see in 2020 that it's going to be up there in the top things to discuss for the presidency. Are you looking for removing it from Schedule 1? What about recreational? I doubt recreational, but I could see medical going like nationwide, at least at a federal level. That's just my thought on it.
Yeah, so it does sound kind of similar. I mean, except that we don't have dispensaries. We have licensed producers who sell online, and you basically order it from them. But we're very fortunate with our home growing program. I mean, we have our administrative issues, but once you get that permit, we probably have the most liberal medical cannabis program in the world, I think, bar none. There is no plant count limit for personal production. So and there's no limit on how much you can be prescribed. I've actually heard of people being prescribed up to 120 grams a day, which gets you somewhere in the neighborhood of, 800 plants or something, and that's just for one person.
Wow. 120 grams a day?
Yeah, that's the highest I've heard of.
So basically Tuesday.
120 grams a day.
Back
indoor.
when I was in the 20s, that would have been like a Tuesday.
I'd be 584 plants indoor.
Wow.
There you go for one person.
Wow, that's kind of amazing. Listen, guys, let's take a quick break.
That would be 228 plants outdoors.
Holy crap!
Yeah. Now
and what's the mix?
And an 85, but an 85.5 kilo storage limit.
And what is the split? Because the storage limit's the highest when you do the split indoor outdoor.
No, when you do all outdoor, that's where it's
all outdoor. Is it really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why we have a 10 gram per day outdoor.
Oh, okay. I get you. So let's take a break, guys, and we'll come back and continue. You want to finish with something, Ross?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Make them come back.
We're going to listen to some Bob Marley and Peter Tosh, Legalize It. This is the 420 Radio Show. Come on in the chat room, or if you can find it.
Go to 420radio.ca and hit chat room.
Hit chat room, yeah. We'll be right back.
Man, have you been to Cannabis yet? Cannabis, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck, Crop King, and wholesaler Nexus. Cannadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Cannadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Cannadays. Have your say without saying a word. Cannadays.ca.
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this lifestyle radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Yeah! Legally, you got to legalize it. Legally. Man rights, you know. Well, this is the tune that unauthorized authority banned from the radio station. But I know them can't ban it right here. Yeah, and I will advertise it. Got to legalize it. Don't criticize it. Got to legalize it. Yeah, and I will advertise it. It's good for the flu. It's good for asthma. Good for tuberculosis. And even pneumococcosis. So you gotta
All right. They keep saying legalize it, but, well, you know, it ain't happening. So while we were on the break, I kind of was talking with the guys, and one of the most question and answer periods that I have from people talking to me online and on social and in emails and stuff like that is, what do I need? What's the kind of stuff do I need? I just got my license and I want to start my grow. What do I need to do it properly so I'm not, because, you know, let's be frank, and everybody will agree here on the panel today, it's not a cheap venture to do inside, is it?
No.
No.
Yeah.
No,
But
your
you can
cost
do
of
it
setup
smart
isn't
and save
cheap.
yourself. Yeah. If you do it smart and if you invest right, then in the long run you do it better.
Well, one of my first introduction to little grow rooms and stuff was actually your book, Lee. You've laid it out pretty good. Marcel keeps dinging my phone. Sorry if it's bothering anybody. You can blame Marcel.
How did I ding your phone?
You're sending pictures.
I only sent one. It's those guys keep putting thumbs up, not me.
I put a thumbs up and I'm sending a picture. Sorry.
Anyways,
how many times have dick pics derailed this show? Just like in the last 2 or 3 months, really?
Well, these dick pics are green with no.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all right. That's permissible.
This is green porn.
Green porn.
It's green porn.
Flower porn. Flower porn. Yes.
But I should say that to begin with, that it doesn't actually have to be expensive. It depends if you're talking about.
Yes, that's what we were
building a
talking about. Yeah.
with lights and ventilation systems and stuff.
Right.
My first time I grew was just a little pot of dirt in a window, and that cost me basically nothing. But the more you put into it, the more you get out, I guess.
That's for sure.
Were you saying that someone was trying to build on a garage or in a garage, and that's what we were going to talk about? Or?
Yeah, my buddy just got his license, and he's got a little area in his garage where he's going to put a permanent room where he can grow his meds. And we were talking about it, and I said, you know what? Why don't you just let me have a conversation about stuff on the show, and then you get your answers. So he's in the chat room, and I'm sure that he'll pipe in. First of all, what was the name of your book? It was Marijuana 101, Professor Lee.
The one you got was Marijuana 101, Professor Lee's Introduction to Growing Grade A Bud.
And there's another one?
And no, I'm working on another one right now.
Oh, okay.
The first book I wrote is out of print, so that one was called Raising Wacky Weed. And that one got picked up by my publisher who said, hey, I like this. I think we can write a good book based off of it. And that's what became Marijuana 101. But I'm currently working on a new one, and it's a monster. Although I did just get a monster in the mail. They sent me a copy of the Cannabis Grow Bible by Greg Green, and this thing it's like a dictionary. It's huge.
Yeah, I just heard about that because Jack was on the show last week talking legal stuff, right? Because Jack is now a big wig lawyer in Toronto, right? He's not just a little publisher editor guy anymore.
I remember I was talking to him when he passed his I guess the bar or whatever
yeah.
it is.
And he's
congratulations. Man.
He's become quite the legal guy in Canada now for helping.
He's becoming a force to be reckoned with.
He really is.
Superstar.
Laws.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm in Canada and I get in trouble, I can always use him as my lawyer, I guess.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Al has him on speed dial.
I have him on speed dial, but I'll tell you, he's expensive.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
He's cheaper than cannabis, though.
Probably, eh?
Cheaper than being in prison.
Hey, will he work for cannabis?
So, anyways, guys, let's go back to what we were talking about.
Okay.
Your basic
All right, so I
your basic
do have a
room.
question that
Okay.
will help with that. How big is this space we're talking about?
Let's say 4 by 5. Let's say
Okay, well,
4
then,
by
yeah,
5.
You got a couple of choices right off the bat. I mean, you can build something from scratch. You can go to your DIY store and get lumber and supplies and put everything together, or you can just order probably a grow tent would be the simplest and easiest thing to do, and they're really not that expensive compared to what you get as long as you buy a good quality one. I would not buy the cheapest one from China because they'll just fall apart on you. I would get something like a Gorilla Grow Tent.
Yes, sir.
That's pretty. You can get a kit that has everything in it you need, and you're set. Yeah, but if you want to build, then that's what I love to do. I love to go and actually source things, and maybe order a few parts and actually get out the saw and the hammer and the screwdriver and get to work. But
I just did that for a patient where I showed them the price difference between going with the kit or doing a build out for the same size area. And doing the build out for the same size area was going to cost them 3 times as much as it would for the kit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a labor of love is what that is. Yeah.
And we're selling a lot of tents right now. Tents are flying off the shelf, and once legalization comes along, everybody's going to be growing their 4 plants in the basement. We're going to be, we're not going to be able to keep those things in stock. We're going to have basically a showroom where we're going to have, small, medium, and large predetermined kits that, is a self-contained tent, with its carbon filter, its ventilation, air-cooled reflector. Maybe you can get 1,000 water into a 5x5 tent and get yourself probably 2 pounds.
Okay,
every 2 months. So
Dean has.
Even if you do go for kit, you can still custimize it with everything that goes inside of it. And there's still a lot of options.
But if you just build a box, like Dean said, he prefers to build, so he'll build his own box or a little closet or room. Or now, we've bounced the idea of using an old freezer. Does that even pay to do something like that?
No.
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 Yeah. Okay.
No.
I don't know. I know somebody that built one in a computer tower.
Okay, you know what? Here's what I always tell my customers: you get out of it what you put into it.
Exactly.
If you have sticker shock when you look at this kit, remember what you pay when you go to the dispensary. Remember what you pay when you buy from a licensed producer. Remember what you pay when you buy from Joe down the road. And when you do the math and you calculate out how much that kit cost you, your tent, your light, your carbon filter, and all that stuff, and you set it up, and it sets you back, I don't know, $1,200-$1,300, and you're thinking, oh my God, that's so much money. How long would that $1,200 or $1,300 last you buying off the street or off a dispensary? That might get you six months worth of cannabis. And to me, it's like it's like the old saying, you can give a man a fish to eat, or you can teach him how to fish. Right? So by teaching someone how to grow their own, you're teaching them how to fish. And if that's $1,300, when you look at your first yield, if you get 2 pounds from your first yield and it costs you $1,300, you do the math and you quickly find out that you're paying cents per gram instead of $10 per gram.
Right,
right. And now it all starts to add up, right? And then you see the wheels start turning, right?
If you didn't know how to fish, and I knew how to fish, so you were buying fish for me for, say, $1 a pound, why would I teach you to fish?
Because that's what I do for a living. When I teach people how to fish, I get to buy fish.
Okay.
You got that? Okay.
I just check it. You were making a good argument to teach somebody.
So, Gooey, what's going on with California? We've heard so far. We've talked about Arkansas. Now we're all waiting to hear what's going on in California. Now nobody really knows yet, eh?
Well, it's pretty concrete right now in terms of the status of everything. The regulations for the legal adult use market, which kicks in on January 1st, 2018. So we're just, like 3.5 months, 3 months away. It's pretty close. And they are finalizing those regulations, just like so many jurisdictions at, the municipal, county, and state levels throughout the United States. They're behind, so it's freaking out businesses who are considering investing hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars because, let's say you're a CO2 extraction company and you get licensed at the local level, with your local town. But California is still working on how you're going to be regulated. Now there's draft language out for a couple different industry segments right now. So again, we're getting closer. But you can see how these business owners or investors behind these businesses being launched are very nervous. Because until those regulations are final, gosh, you invest, $500,000 in CO2 extraction, machines, and to find out that, they're not going to allow solvents in that county. Suddenly, you got to sell your equipment or move to another county or, something, and that becomes very expensive and impractical.
So you're playing the waiting game.
Right, and you still have all the discussion. All the cities are still trying to figure out if they even want it or not. Like, I guess whatever's happening in Fresno, where they're bouncing things back and forth, going back to the drawing board to see, hey, how many plants should people have? Should we have recreational, or just keep it medical? So it's still a lot of stuff going on now. It's
in fact, that's what's crazy about it. It's all the, there's so many jurisdictions in Southern California. You've got 40 million people in California's largest GDP in the universe. We're talking up against like China, the UK, and most of those 40 million live in Southern California. I've heard things like, yesterday Cheryl Schumann told me that LA County, the per capita consumption of cannabis is basically like the largest in the world. But that market described is sliced up into so many jurisdictions. In fact, I want to map it. I want to see how many there are at the municipal level, how many at the county level. Obviously, there's only one state. But business people wanting to get into the cannabis business here, regardless of the expense, and that's highly variable depending on where you do it. And we can talk more about that in a second. But they've got to invest effort and money at 3 levels: at that local municipal level, at the county level, and at the state level. And as much as we would like legalization at the federal level, that will come with regulations and hoops and permit expenses and all that stuff too. It would just add a 4th level. So, but this is kind of the way the business world works. I'm not going to whine about it and say, look at the poor cannabis businesses.
Yeah.
It's sad. Okay, I just got done with a manufacturing application for Costa Mesa here in the LA area. Costa Mesa, that was about a $50,000 application for them to apply for that. That was the most expensive that I had seen because there's no guarantee, and those are non-refundable. Talk about some risk. This is kind of like going to Vegas, right? Costa Mesa was the most expensive that I had found until I encountered Bellflower last week. And but Bellflower really just does not like cannabis, yet they're allowing it. It's delicate politics here in Southern California. But they have a $53,500 in permit fees, non-refundable. If you don't, 25 of that is non-refundable. If they say, no, we're not giving you your permit, you don't get any of the money back. But if you do get accepted, which is obviously the good news, they're going to tag you for $25,000 every single year going into the future. Now those are permit fees and like processing fees. Those are not taxes. So taxes are a totally different issue.
Yeah, there's a nice cash grab for them.
Oh my God! There's some city council members that are probably planning their trips to Hawaii because this can't all be clean money.
It's a lot of money. Yeah. I mean, I see what when I look up at Canada, what I kind of see is like the government's just pushing to take over the industry and push everyone that created it out of the way and just keep the money for themselves.
Yeah.
And God knows what kind of products they'll be offering in the future because there won't be any choice other than what they give you. So,
don't worry. It's all going to backfire on Canada.
Okay. It sounds like the communist Russia of marijuana. I mean, it just sounds a little creepy. Sorry, guys. I love Canada.
In all honesty, it's probably the best analogy to describe what's going on. But all that's going to end up happening is Ontario turned around and announced that they're going to set their recreational price at $10 per gram. Well, that's perfect for them. But nobody's going to pay $10 a gram when you can get it on the street for $6 to $8.
So nothing changes. Black market continues, and the government's.
If anything, the black market.
Profitable.
Right. If anything, the black market's about to get a really big boost because legalization is going to basically say, "Oh, I can just smoke pot. I'll go get it here because I can save a lot of money."
Yeah, and guess who else is going to get a big boost? Hydroponic storage, because everybody's going to want to grow their own. Nobody,
once people realize that, holy crap, at $10 a gram, I better start growing it.
Yeah, straight spreadsheet math.
It really is. Again, you're talking about cents per gram versus $10 to $15 per gram. That's a no-brainer. You look at the if you're a regular a cannabis consumer, even if you're just doing it recreationally, you come home from work, you smoke a couple of joints, you do that every night, you have a little party on the weekend, you're probably spending $300, $400, $500 a month maybe on cannabis from your local cannabis control board of Ontario. So
wow.
How that money adds up pretty fast. So if you think about making an investment into a kit like a grow tent, for example, like some of a 5 foot by 5 foot grow tent, I'll take my own example. I put a 1,000-watt light in there. I get pounds. It costs me under 50 cents a gram. And I can do that I can show you how to do that.
Nice.
Even with 4 plants that aren't over 39 inches, I can show you how to fill that 5x5 tent from side to side. So when they announced that program, I thought, you know what, that's not how I have always envisioned legalization. My dream right back from the 70s all the way to today of legalization was Tommy Chong's version of it, where he said, you know what, he said, leave it the way it is, man. He said, just stop sending people to jail. Stop charging people with it. We got it under control. We got a great system. Just leave us alone. And to me, that was I was like, yeah, that's legalization, Just stop bugging people about it. Let them do what they want. But no, they've got to regulate the hell out of it, right? And this is just the way it works now in government. So not only is the federal government, who's in charge of production, making it so you need to have $20 million to be a commercial producer. Now you've got the provincial government saying you can only sell that $20 million cannabis through our government-controlled stores located sporadically across the province. Well, that's not what I thought legalization was, but that is the reality of the situation. So
but really, when you think about it, there's nothing to do with legalization. Legalization is the wrong terminology. Nothing's being legalized. It's just being re-regulated.
It's being regulated, yes.
In a different form. That's it.
Yes. So
I think they're calling it Prohibition 2.0.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good term for it. Because really,
you
that's
can still
what it
get
is.
it, but the dealers are different.
Yeah.
They wear suits and ties.
Meet my pot. Meet my pot dealer, Justin Trudeau.
Hey, do you mind if we go back to the topic of Mark and Jody Emery for a second?
How about
we always love that.
How about we'll do that? We'll come back we'll have another break and then we'll start with that.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. We'll be right back. This is the 420 Radio Show, live, lifestyleradio.net, 420radio.ca. Come on, say hello into the chat room. That didn't make sense, but you know what I meant.
Is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Warning, yeah. Warning. We don't swap in yarning. Fancy rock and ranking, bliss it till morning. Do it, John. I read herbalist about ya.
Yeah, me love me marijuana. Sesame flavor. Sesame flavor. Because me love me sesame. Sesame flavor. Sesame flavor. Me love me marijuana flavor.
Right.
Marijuana flavor. Love me marijuana. Marijuana flavor. Marijuana flavor.
Yeah, me sit down and me roll it in a race lap on me lap. Baby, me smoke make your eye them job. Place me a place, so you know me not go stop. You ganja man, me not take no gap. You're dealing with the herbalist. You're the real specialist who have no ganja na in palace. Don't reach out back, sensitive where you give me a shot.
Yeah, me love me marijuana. Sesame flavor. Sesame flavor. Because me love me sesame. Sesame flavor. Sesame flavor. Me love me marijuana flavor. Marijuana flavor. Love me marijuana. Marijuana flavor. Marijuana flavor. And it's the healing, not the nation, not what people might say. Ganja in the morning, smoking ganja all day. Some drink, some stress, but me not roll that way.
I strictly sense me love, we no deal with no play.
When me burn up me spliff, it make my eye turn red. Yeah, me feel alright, me shake me red. I do it over coke, and that me promote. As some me tell the youth, well me not the panjo. Yeah, me love me marijuana. Sesame flavor. Because me love me sesame. Sesame flavor. Sesame flavor. Me love me marijuana flavor. Marijuana flavor. Love me marijuana. Marijuana flavor. It a flavor.
Yes, baby, light up me chalice, yes, me feel alright.
Lift up me meditation, reaching a higher heights.
Me nah understand why marijuana them a fight.
Healing on the nation, right? Chop, Patsy, give me the weeds. Make me roll a spliff where fat like a bima.
Then see a fee easy, no man that want that super flower.
Ganja every day, come me blessed with the power.
Me higher than the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, me marijuana. Sesame flavor. Sesame flavor. Because me love me sesame. Sesame flavor. Sesame flavor. Me love me marijuana flavor. Marijuana flavor. Marijuana flavor. Marijuana flavor. Marijuana flavor. Shad. Sesame flavor.
I like Sensi Rock. Okay, you guys were talking and you wanted to continue talking, so start beaking up.
Continue talking.
Yeah, what were you guys talking?
Gooey, you want to talk about Mark and Jody?
Yeah, we talked about Mark and Jody a little earlier. We had mentioned Cheryl Schumann, and these are personalities within the cannabis culture / industry that I mean they're very kind of attractive personalities by the fact that they're very polarizing. They have lots of lovers and lots of haters, and the haters accuse the lovers of drinking the Kool-Aid, and it all gets kind of elementary school playground like.
Yeah, it gets stupid.
Right, and I just say this because I come off the heels of a multi-hour interview with Cheryl Schumann in West Hollywood yesterday, and I first met Mark and Jody back in 2004 at the Tokers Bowl. In Vancouver. I spent a decent amount of time with them. I met them and interviewed them on multiple occasions after that, sometimes in Toronto and or Hamilton there in Ontario. I've met them more in Ontario than I actually have in Vancouver. But I just think that especially as a culture and an industry, we look toward legalization throughout North America, and I know they're very different systems and all. Things are changing, and the role of people like Cheryl Schumann and Mark Emery and Jody Emery and other figures, maybe an Eddie Lepp or someone like that, a Dennis Perone, their roles are changing, but I think as we start to look back, and they have somewhat of a legacy and a history, we should just kind of, if somebody's got a unique lifestyle or different taste in something than we do, within certain ethical bounds, I think we should just kind of ignore that and look at how maybe they've educated the population, how they've made business contributions, how they have put their asses on the line and been willing to go to jail. Not everybody's willing to do that, and whether it takes a little cray-cray or not, it might be up for debate. But anyway, I guess my message is just focus, glass half full, right? Focus on the positive, not the negative, because I think these people have all brought some very positive influence to the culture.
Yes, that's true. And I watched the HESA hearings, and Mark and Jody testified in front of the committee. And they were together, and they were basically asked questions and offered comments, one by one. And it was really interesting to see the dynamic. I mean, here's Jody presenting this articulate, educated, well-spoken, argument that brings home a point that can't be denied, and then Mark takes his turn, and it's like the bulldog going, "You guys need to stop arresting us. You guys need to stop harassing us." And it takes both of those approaches, I think, to make an impression on the people, the powers that be.
They do actually. They have two totally different ways of doing things. Although I've seen her get up in people's faces too.
But she does it. She does it in a really intelligent way, and a measured way.
Mark gets a little crazy. He lets his
he's like the bulldog on the leash, and Jody's the wise owner, trying not to let him bite anybody.
Unfortunately, I don't know how much control Jody actually has of that of him.
It's a long leash.
Yeah, he probably does have a long leash. They're here to stay.
They're both.
We're going to leave lifestyles out of it, though, right?
Yes, we're leaving lifestyles out of it. Yes.
You guys didn't actually watch the HESA hearings, did you? Did you see their speeches?
I didn't see it all. I watched certain parts of it.
Okay, she actually pulled a joint out during the hearing, so that way, she pulled it out to say, "This is what we're talking about." There was one point you could tell she was getting really emotional. She was in tears. So you can tell that they both are passionate about this. Him, you say, more in quote unquote bulldog that you describe him. But yeah, you could see she has a different approach. So I think they balance each other out. It's nice to see.
She's always been very friendly when I've spoken to her. Mark, I don't think I've said hello, Mark, and that's about it. So, But Jody's always been very pleasant, very talkative, and she's actually been on the show as well. So I wanted to make sure, because we kind of switched topics, me and my ADHD-ness, I wanted to go back to the grow room thing, because we were talking about that and explaining what a ballpark figure. Your normal everyday dude who wants to grow 5 plants in his garage. What kind of prices are you looking at for the equipment that you need, Ross, or anybody?
Well, it depends on which country you're in.
Where we are, it's all of Canada. I mean, the distributors sell to all of the hydroponic stores across Canada, and they set the suggested retail price. So everybody's paying the same price across the country. To get yourself, like if you're talking about your recreational 4-plant system, you're going to want like a 4x4 or 5x5 grow tent. And like Professor Lee says, don't cheap out. Don't get the Chinese one that's going to leak the light and ruin your photo period. Get the Gorilla Grow. It's the best one on the market. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's worth every penny. You put in there, a 600 watt or 1,000 watt light, or maybe you go with light emitting ceramic and LEC 315 watt, or a double-ended model. There's so many choices in lighting now. Every one of them has a cost factor ramification. But if you go with the old school HID, HPS, 600 watts, say in a 4x4 tent, that's going to yield you at least a pound per harvest every 2 months if you do everything right. You're probably talking $1,300 to $1,500, and that's everything. So $1,500 and your first harvest.
Call me, I'll get you a deal.
Yeah, there you go. So if you pay $1,500, you pay $1,500 and your first harvest is a pound. Well, what is a pound going for on the open market today? It's probably around $1,500 a pound. But that's your first to grow. That's your very first harvest. It's now paid for your equipment. Now every harvest after that is you're just paying for hydro, your electricity, and you're paying for your nutrients, and it's a little bit of medium. And when you do the math after, post paying off your investment, and you do the math on your nutrients and electricity and your medium, it comes out literally to 25 cents a gram. So it's just a no-brainer to me that everybody's going to want to grow indoors, and we're looking forward to a huge uptick in business come next summer.
Yep.
Outdoors too, because we're allowed to grow outdoors recreationally as well.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a long-term investment that pays off. Yeah.
It does pay off, and it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yep. And I need a boat.
You'd asked if the guy was building his own, like what should he use for reflection on the walls?
Yep.
I think
Yep.
is what you were asking. Yeah, and in my opinion, if I was doing that, I would definitely never say mirrors, because they're not actually as reflective as you think.
Okay.
Mylar has to be perfectly flat, and if it's got crinkles in it, then that's uneven light, and it also can conduct electricity. Honestly, I would probably just go with paint.
White walls.
If you can get it,
Yeah.
if you can get it, I would get greenhouse paint. The paint they use inside greenhouses. That stuff is massively reflective. And short of that, just some flat white. The reason that I go with the paint is if you mar it up, if you
could just paint over it. Yeah.
You just paint over it.
It's
low maintenance. Yeah.
When I was talking with my buddy about it, he asked me, "Do I want the what do they call the stuff in the tents that they put in the tents, Ross? Is that Mylar?
It's a Mylar
coating.
Oh,
no, the tents already have a reflective coating or surface on the inside.
I know that. Yeah.
So it comes. Yeah.
But what he asked me, which I thought was better, and I mean I studied photography, so I know that white always reflects the best, right?
Yes, but you don't want to use a high gloss white.
And that was my next question, because he said, "Do I want flat or so just a flat white?"
Yep.
That's the safest one to go. If some people would say like maybe a little semi-gloss, but I've always just used flat white, and I've never regretted it.
Okay.
There's also a product that we call Panda Plastic, and it's black on one side and white on the other for grow rooms.
That's a cute name, Marcel.
Panda plastic.
We call it lay flat.
Oh, do you?
Made,
yeah.
We call it panda plastic.
I've made removable curtains and removable like walls out of that because I would always have 3 permanent walls, and then the front wall was usually a curtain like that I could just roll up and have full access to my garden.
Yeah.
And having that black makes the white more reflective. The light can't through it.
Okay.
Yeah. That anyway. Whatever you call that plastic, it's about 95% reflective. You know, Mylar is about 98% reflective. Your flat weight paint is about 95%.
Mylar is about 98% reflective when it's inside a grow or a tent or when it's on a flat surface. But people that go to the dollar store and buy those little Mylar solar blankets,
that's not Mylar.
That's not Mylar. If you can take a flashlight and shine light through the material, then it's not going to reflect.
You know, I just Lee, I just wanted to mention that I know a lot of people when they use Mylar who intentionally crinkle up the Mylar.
Well, that you get a bounce then, right?
Well, you get what it does is it refracts the rays and gives better penetration into the canopy, and sometimes can even get up under the canopy. So that's the claims that I'm hearing. I personally don't use it, but that's what I'm hearing.
I find it's an uneven. It's not like thoroughly diffused. It's very uneven, and you can get hot spots that can.
Exactly. Like, and you can do the same thing.
I'm here in the South, and when I walk around the front yard in the mornings or the evenings, light bouncing off people's windows will burn me like a magnifying glass.
Yeah, you can do the same thing by painting the floor too, right? You paint the floor, you get the same kind of reflect, right?
Yes, you want your floor to be a light color so it can reflect.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as there is light to hit it. Ideally, you'll have a nice sea of green, and there won't be any light reaching the floor. But
you won't see it.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But white is good also for showing anything dirty or that needs to be cleaned. If you're getting, like, heaven forbid, mold or algae or any kind of stuff like that, it shows up well on white.
Yeah. And what's a can of flat cost? I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
You're looking at $40 maybe for a big can, right?
Well, if you buy from my guy at the Dulux location, they have a special horticultural grade paint. It's probably about $45 a gallon, but it's worth every penny.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah, it's a little bit more upfront, but it does pay off in the long run. So that would be a wise choice.
Well, a lot of people don't realize, and I have this conversation with a lot of people too, is, they say, well, that's for only 4 plants. That's not that much, man. I said, but okay, like that's constantly, that's, you can have 4 plants going all the time. If you want to, it gets expensive, and people don't think, oh, cool, I'm going to be able to grow plants in my house. Yoo-hoo, I'm going to put a room down in the basement. And you're looking at a $1,200 hydro bill every month. You got to think about things like that, right?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, electricity varies. I know up there your hydro bills can be very expensive. I think I've heard some horror stories. Was it like in Toronto or somewhere? They're hundreds of dollars for just a house payment.
For house payment?
Oh, for $1 million for a little bungalow, in Toronto.
Yeah, I hear that the electrical prices are quite high there. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, 23 cents a kilowatt hour. It's 7 cents a kilowatt hour in Quebec, and
a 25 plant garden will cost you about $3,000 a month in hydro.
Wow.
Oh, what kind of light are you using?
Or no, sorry, $3,000 every 2 months because we get our bill every 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah, $1,500 a month roughly.
Good.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Look a lot better.
Yeah. Oh, I love greenhouses. I love growing outdoors.
And that's another option, and that's another kit. That can be assembled and sold as a complete kit.
Oh yes.
One of the things that I've only seen a few people consider it, but have you seen solar tubes? They're kind of like
I have.
There's a tube that comes down that's reflective inside, and you can like direct it into a room.
That takes the actual sunlight and filters it down into the room, right?
Right. It's just taking sunlight from the outside. It beams it down a reflective tube into whatever room you want. And I've seen people, install those in closets and back rooms and use that to help out their electrical needs.
That sounds really cool.
But even sunlight on an overcast day is still really strong. So,
Mhm.
and it's free. Yeah. There's
Well,
things you can do.
It's not totally free. I mean, you got to have the money to be able to build a house that has those in it, right?
Yeah, I mean, given that you have that, it's a few $100s to install it, but after that, you're not paying electricity bills on that.
No, it's
Some
a
of
great
them do
idea.
Yeah, some of them do come with a baffle where you can turn them off. So if you're needing to have a dark cycle and the sun's still out, you could just close it or have it hooked to a switch or a timer.
So what is it? A series of mirrors and tubes that kind of tell it to go, a path?
Imagine a very small skylight, maybe like a foot across or 10 inches across, and coming down from it is a tube, and inside that tube it's a very shiny reflective metal, and at the bottom of the tube is just basically a diffuser. So the light comes in through the top, down the tube, hits the diffuser, and radiates out into the room.
Oh, wow.
Basically, yeah, they're pretty neat. They've been around for, 20 years or so, but I've only recently seen people actually starting to use them in grow rooms.
Sounds expensive, though.
I think it could be expensive.
Install one.
Is it something
It's
that
less
you can?
expensive than skylight.
Is it something that you can DIY yourself?
Yeah, you can buy it at a DIY store.
Okay.
You can pay a handyman to come and install it for you.
Huh. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I remember seeing it probably about 15 years ago or so. It's not a new idea. I think it's probably something that might not be a standalone lighting system. You might have to supplement it with some artificial light as well, though.
Well,
do you think, Lee?
Oh, exactly right. All I'm saying is it's supplemental lighting that can augment your grow. It's just a little bit of extra, basically, sunshine being brought into your house.
Wow.
Sure. So maybe
Natural light as opposed to all fake all the time, right?
Or so maybe you can use a 400 watt light instead of a 1,000 watt light, right? So that saves you money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's their options. And, when you're talking about the grow room still, another question I would have for them is, do they want to use soil or hydroponics? Do they want to have a sealed room, or do they want to ventilate? Because, if they have a sealed room, they need to use carbon dioxide.
He wants to put a fan system in there for ventilation. Yes.
Yes, I think. Yeah. Go ahead, Lee.
Whenever I have a ventilated room, I don't use CO2. It seems to be a waste to me. But if I have a sealed room, then I use the CO2, and you get increased results with that. But yeah, I can see that. Go ahead.
No, if you're sealing your room, if it's a real sealed room, you almost have to put CO2 into it. You're going to suffocate your plants if you don't. They need that.
If you're not drawing any fresh CO2 from outdoors.
Right.
Yeah.
The way I always try to preach is that you bring your fresh air in and you take your stale air out, and you just keep that process going, and you will get all the CO2 that you need naturally without having to add anything.
Yeah. If you want to shut down your system and add CO2 every once in a while, that's not a bad thing either. You could always have that option.
That's true, but really, if you're ventilating properly, it's really not necessary to add CO2. So no. I know people who do it. I know people who ventilate and add CO2, and in my opinion, all they're doing is releasing CO2 that's being sucked out of the room.
I was going to say, yeah, that sounds like a waste of money.
That's what I've always thought about.
That's kind of like hot boxing with your windows open.
Yeah. It's not really hot boxing when your window's open, is it?
No.
What are you doing? We're hot boxing, man. Your windows are open.
The neighborhood.
Yeah.
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 My neighborhood smells great.
To release CO2, let the plants use it, ventilate the air, fill it with CO2. It's a little more trickier and attentive to set that up. And if you're doing it right, you might be too high to actually pull that off continuously.
And so what does Dean want to do? Does he want to use soil, or does he want to do a hydroponic?
I don't know. Let's ask him.
Can I make a recommendation
Sure.
for newbies?
Okay.
For newbies, do not go to a hydroponic system for your first choice. Okay, like you're talking about a level of complexity that is probably something that you're going to need to study and learn about for a while. When you're using soilless mix like Pro Mix or Sunshine Mix or whatever it is you're using, it's a simple system. You just use nursery pots. You put them in a little saucer in case there's any overflow, and then you can just hand water them right out of a pre-mixed nutrient mixture, and it's just down and dirty, simple growing that anybody can do. When you start getting into the hydroponic systems, whether it's ebb and flow or deep water culture or whatever system you're using, it's kind of like if you're the kind of guy who likes to tinker with cars, you have that muscle car or sports car and you love to tinker with it. That's kind of like having a hydroponic system, because you're always going to be tinkering with it. You're always going to be checking to make sure everything's flowing properly, that no jets or injectors are clogging, that no tubing is clogging, that your aerator is still running and it doesn't run out because you've got to keep your water oxygenated. Like there's all these issues that come along with the hydroponic system, which can be beneficial to growing, but it takes time to learn how to use those methods properly. So I always recommend that people start out with the Pro Mix in a pot.
He's saying soil.
Yeah, well, soil. Pro Mix is soil. It's soil-less mix is what they call it. It's you would never use like an outdoor soil, like a loamy kind of soil indoors. That would just be crazy.
You're bringing all kinds of crap into the house, right?
There's bacteria, funguses, possibly even pests in that soil that are going to infest your plant and take you down.
And that's a good way to get mites too, right?
Well, not necessarily from soil, but there's a lot of other, like mostly bacterial and fungal issues that are going to get into your root zone and cause a lot of damage.
You can bring mites in yourself from outdoors.
Sure, you can.
Just walk through the grass and then go into your grow room.
Yeah.
The number one source for pests in a grow room is the grower themselves.
Yep.
Oh, you know what? I have a whole hierarchy of rules. Okay, my number one rule is never take a cutting from anybody. Okay, I did it a couple of times. It didn't work out too well. I now have a rule. I do not take cuttings from anybody, and I get people. You don't know how many people say, "Oh, I've got this really good Master Kush. You want a cut? Here, take a cut." It's like, I know, I got all the strains I need. Thanks. And I just don't do it, because even when people say, "Oh, I don't have bugs," yeah, they got bugs. They got bugs bad. And so do you now. So, number one rule: don't take cuttings from people. That's mine. That's just me.
What about clones?
What about put a whole bunch of clone businesses out.
Well, I was just going to say, what about clones? I mean, you've got the LPs are hoping to capitalize on that.
Yeah, well, you don't think the LPs have spider mites? The LPs are riddled with spider mites. That's why they're putting pesticides on there that are not approved, and you're inhaling hydrogen cyanide.
Yeah, and they're learning how to get up in the ceiling. I know.
Yeah. how to hide the evidence.
They bought a new ladder, and they had to try it.
Yeah, it's a brand new A-frame ladder. It's a feather light, and it reaches right up into that tile where you can put that bottle of illegal pesticide when the inspector comes.
And on that note, here's a commercial from BMA Hydroponics. We'll be right back. We'll be right back. We'll be right back.
Hi, it's Deb from BMA Hydroponics. Whatever you are growing, from vegetables to medicinal cannabis, we have everything you need to succeed. From seed to harvest to processing and extracting, we carry all the brand name products that will help you produce, process, and consume high-quality medicine. Our knowledgeable staff of qualified growers have decades of experience with home production, and all possess either MMAR injunction status or an ACMPR registration certificate. We offer the largest variety of products available anywhere, and if you don't see what you're looking for, just let us know and we'll find it for you. Visit our store at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, Ontario, or visit our website at bmahydroponics.com. We can be reached at 613-967-9888, Monday to Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/BMAHydro and drop us a line at BMA. Our motto is your success is our success.
Please hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
I can't smoke pot, hell, I can't even wear my earring. Sick and tired of people telling me what I can and cannot do. Guess I'll just pack up my guitar and move to Music City. Starve to death like most starving artists do. I can smoke all the pot that I want in my old 420 local. If I want, I can even wear an earring in my nose. No longer matters how I vote, or even if I want to. No longer matters how I wear my hair or my clothes.
Don't hog that, man. Pass it on. I ain't saying you wouldn't even thought about it. Hurry it up. Don't hog it. We need to stand what you're doing. Heck yeah, pass it.
I can smoke all the pot that I want in my old 420 local.
Willie Nelson will kick your ass for smoking that much.
If I want, I can even wear an earring in my nose.
Don't bogart. Pass it on. Pass it on.
No longer matters how I vote, or even if I want to. No longer matters how I wear my hair or my clothes. No longer matters how I vote, or even if I want to. No longer matters how I wear my hair or my clothes.
That is Bobby Frick's 420 Local. I like that song. And been trying to get Bobby to come on the show and play it for us. But he's busy, like touring and recording and stuff in Nashville. So
being famous and all that.
Yeah, you know. So
can I start a conversation?
I was just going to say we were just going to continue our conversation. So yes,
I'd like to switch a little bit subjects, and because when we were before the show, Gooey was mentioning some things about strains and different strains, and I wanted to ask Gooey if he's familiar with the work of Dr. Ethan Russo. Gooey, you there?
Gooey?
No Gooey? Okay,
Gooey.
we lost Gooey. How about Professor Lee? Are you familiar with
there he
Dr.
is.
Ethan Russo?
I heard him.
Oh, he's back.
He's back.
He's back?
Yes.
Gooey?
Gooey?
No, he's not back.
Oh, okay.
Well, Professor Lee, are you familiar with Dr. Ethan Russo?
No, I am not. Please tell me more.
Okay, Dr. Ethan Russo, he worked for, I think it was GW Pharma to help do R&D. He's a neurologist, a board-certified neurologist, and he's also a botanical chemist, I think it is. He's got lots of letters after his name. He's now working for another consulting group that's trying to develop specific cannabinoid medicines. He has basically come to the conclusion that there are no strains. There are no strains at all. In fact, he goes further and he says that there's no such thing as cannabis indica. There's no such thing as cannabis ruderalis. He says that everything out there is a chemical variation of the original and only strain that there is, and that is Cannabis sativa L. L being for Linnaeus, the guy who named and gave the name to cannabis. So Cannabis sativa is all there is. All of it: hemp, all the stuff that grows in the Kush Mountains, all the stuff that grows in Africa and South America, it's really all cannabis sativa. It all came from one single source. Nobody's really exactly sure where that was, perhaps in Asia, but then it spread out, usually carried by man, to all different corners of the planet, where that original cannabis sativa adapted to its local environment, and I guess I can use the word cultivar, but they all became different cultivars that adapted to those environments. Like, for example, in the Hindu Kush Mountains, there's like 3 different varieties of chemovars, which is what Dr. Ethan Russo calls them, chemovars instead of strains. The chemovars just represent a different chemical signature for each plant. So depending on where it adapted, its chemical signature changes, and so does its appearance. So, for example, in the Hindu Kush Mountains, you have valley varieties, you have mid-altitude varieties, and you have high-altitude varieties, and they all adapt and create their own chemical signature. And that's why he says that these are chemovars, and that we shouldn't be using the word strain, that, these chemovars pretty much cover every eventuality, and there are so many different adaptive landrace strains, and now those are all being crossed on each other, creating all these hybridized chemovars. I just used the S word. They're creating all of these hybrid chemovars now. And I heard somebody, I read a comment somewhere that somebody had made saying that all of this crossbreeding, we're losing good medicine. And I'm thinking to myself, no, we're not losing any good medicine at all. We're just creating all these different chemical signatures of cannabis, and people pin these names on them, and it's all basically marketing, right? They come up with, sour tangy. What the hell is sour tangy? What is that? So, really it's all cannabis sativa, and whatever mixture of chemical variations that you have are going to affect the way it affects you. So I think that having more crossbreeds, having more chemical signatures, gives people a broader range of options, especially for medicinal use, to treat specific symptoms, so that you can actually find a particular chemical structure. If you look at it like a DNA code, and you see all these A's and C's and D's, and they're all lined up in different, random patterns, but then they form a strand of DNA that makes you. That's kind of the way cannabis is, and there's approximately 100 different cannabinoids. There's so many different terpenes. There's so many different flavonoids. There's all these different elements. There's THCA, there's THCV, and they all come in different percentages. And it's like this random mishmash of all these different chemical signatures, and that's what he says, that we should not be using the word strain. We should not be using cannabis indica, cannabis ruralis, cannabis organica, cannabis americana, that all of these things are slang expressions. And I just, reading his stuff and listening to his lectures really changed the way that I look at cannabis and the way I perceive cannabis. And it made me realize, this happens to me all the time, like I always think that I know a lot about cannabis, and then I look back a year ago and I think, damn, I didn't know jack back then. And I know a year from now I'm going to look back and say I didn't know jack then either. But that's the great thing about cannabis, is that there's so much to learn, there's so much to find out, there's so much to discover. You can go on at this endlessly and just absorb all of this. And as the science breaks, I mean, with guys like Ethan Russo doing all this research, it's getting down to the real science of cannabis. It's not just everybody's opinion of what this particular strain does for me, and the Bubba Kush is the best and you can't beat Kush, and if I hear the word Kush one more time, I'm gonna go nuts, because I want a genetic analysis of that particular strain you're calling Kush, and I want you to get a sample from the Hindu Kush Mountains, and I want a genetic profile from it, and I want to compare them, because I know they're not going to match. So it's marketing, I guess, is what I'm coming down to. And I don't know how much you were aware of all that. I know you know what cannabinoids are and how they can affect the way cannabis affects people, but that's kind of the science behind it, and I'm intrigued by the science, and I'm constantly looking for more breaking science, because that's I think there's so much more left to be learned. There's so many ignored cannabinoids that we really still don't know much about at all.
Well, I think it's good that you're comfortable with them combining different varieties, because no one's going to stop doing it. The genetics are just going to keep getting mixed up, and that's fine. I mean, there's all different points of views on it. And you're right about learning something new about it all the time. I certainly do. I did do an article where it was Seeds of Africa. They're a company in Africa that's dedicated to finding like old, basically wild landrace strains that have been grown by traditional tribes, and they're preserving those genetics so that they don't just get mixed up, because there's commercial strains are coming in and replacing them, and they were scared they might lose those traits. But so those seeds are going to be sold to people, that are going to grow them and hybridize them with the stuff they have anyway. So it's kind of funny when you think of it that way.
Yeah, but what you said about them being replaced, there are landrace strains. For example, I know that the pygmies have been using cannabis for thousands of years, and they have their own landrace strain that they've been growing for thousands of years, and they are very protective of that particular variety. And they won't, like when the strain hunters went into I think it's the Congo is where they are, and they tried to get some seeds or from the pygmies. The pygmies chased them out of town, throwing spears at them, kind of thing. Like, get the hell off of our land.
Way it should be.
So listen, guys, Gooey fell off, and he had a phone call, and now he's got a very noisy environment. So he may call back, he may not. We'll just continue our conversation. Just wanted to let you know that Gooey was not here and listening anymore. I'm sure
he might be listening.
I'm sure he might be listening, but he's not here with us anymore now.
So we have to be careful what we say about him now.
Well, yeah, that way. Well, we want him to come back. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, it was great having you.
What else can we talk about? What do you got coming up? You said you got a new
No, he has
new book,
a question.
Eh? Oh, you got a question. Okay, ask the question.
That's the program. I was going to say, when it comes to nutrients, do you have like a favorite organic line you like to use?
I do.
I know I do.
Ross does his.
I don't personally use organic, but when people ask me about organic, I try to try to lead people to the organic-based liquid nutrients, because they tend to be the most user-friendly, and they still give you those organic qualities while giving you the convenience of measured doses, measured mixing, and predetermined elements like calcium, magnesium, and then your potassium, phosphorus, and all of the other things. So those I find are more user-friendly for an organic nutrient, and I try to steer people clear of the solid organics indoors, in particular. Outdoors, solid organics, things like composts and guanos and worm castings and things like that are all really good for outdoor growing. But I certainly wouldn't personally recommend using those type of solid organics indoors.
Okay.
What do you say, Dr. Lee? I mean, Professor Lee. Sorry, I just gave you a PhD.
Very good. No, I like to use organics just because I think it tastes a little bit better to me, but I don't have a problem using like a name brand commercial synthetic product. I answered a question in an article I wrote recently about, do synthetic fertilizers kill fungus that you might have in there? And I said, not really.
No.
To the plants and to the fungus, a nitrogen molecule is the same depending on no matter where it came from. It doesn't know. It doesn't care if it's from broken down organic matter or if it's from a petrochemical. It's still going to absorb it and use it. the same as it would any other. It's just what you run into with the synthetics, I think, is you can also do this with the organics. It's really easy to overdose a plant on, or to build up a toxic level in your soil, and so that's what you have to really be careful of.
Yes, that is so true.
I prefer thinking, hey, this was organically grown. I feel real happy about that, but I don't have a problem with someone who, say, God forbid, general hydroponics or something like that.
Yeah,
that wouldn't bother me at all.
Well, the only thing that bothers me about general hydroponics is that they've been bought by Scott's, the people who do Miracle Grow.
Exactly.
So it's been a corporate takeover there. So there's other 3-part and 2-part nutrients that I try to steer people to. It's just out of principle.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would never recommend someone use Miracle Grow or something like that. But
Oh, God, no.
certainly-
No. The residuals and heavy metals and things like that. I mean, it's great for growing vegetables when you ingest things and you take them down through your GI tract. That's a whole different thing than combusting something and inhaling it into your lungs, right? So you don't want those residuals. And that's why, if we can talk a little bit about what you do, like right now, I've just finished flushing the hell out of my plants. And that's the important thing, regardless of what fertilizer you're using. When it comes to the end, if you don't flush all that stuff out of there and get it all out of there, it's going to affect the way your plant smells, the way it tastes, the harshness, all those things. It's going to be a black ash kind of problem with your
Which is
stuff.
why when you grow outdoors, you don't want to use any synthetics because you can't wash them out. I'm not sure what you mean by, what do you mean by synthetics? You talking about food grade chemical fertilizers? Yeah, when I say the non-organic fertilizers.
I use Canna. Canna's my brand, and it's a food grade chemical. I use it outdoors, and it works awesome.
I like Gaia Green, and it works really good outdoors too.
Yeah, that's your organic based stuff, right?
Yeah. So
as long as it doesn't have a high residual value, like there are certain organics, for example, compost. If you mix compost into your soil, it's going to release nitrogen very slowly over a very long period of time. And at the end of the year, when you're getting towards harvest, or you're just into flowering, the last thing you want is nitrogen, right? So. But there it is. It's continuing to release nitrogen. And even when you try to flush it, you can't because it's still going to keep releasing nitrogen. So to me, to use solid organics that break down on the slow rate like that is not advisable. Just from a product quality standpoint of view, when you harvest, you want it to be clean as a whistle. And, you can use food grade chemical fertilizers outdoors, and they flush actually more readily than your organics would. So I guarantee you that the product that I have just spent 2 weeks flushing is going to be clean as a whistle. It's going to bring out its full flavor, the full terpene profile, and it's going to be the sweetest tasting, smoothest smoke you ever had. And that's my testimonial.
You'll have to come down when you come down to get your ice cream. Bring some and we'll compare.
Okay. Sure. Well, there's always the mail, Marcel.
Well, there is that. But I'm not mailing you ice cream.
Well, no,
I've already
but
told you
we
this
can mail
before.
buds. We can mail buds back and forth, right?
That works.
So let's do that. We'll do a little exchange.
We'll do.
Here's a little of mine. Here's a little of yours.
Bud of the Week Club.
And I don't,
We
I'm
better
I'm
not say
an
that too much. People might want to jump in on that one. And
Yeah. There are some people who are diehard organic nutrient users, and that's okay.
I'm only diehard because I grow outdoors. So I want it to be organic outdoors because I know how hard it is to flush.
You know how hard what is to flush? The organics?
The toilet.
No, outdoors.
The toilet.
It's hard to flush outdoors.
It's particularly hard if you're in the ground. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're growing in the ground, it's really, really hard to flush the earth. Planet Earth is a big thing to flush.
Yep.
So that's why I grow in root pouches, the fiber pots. I use the 65 gallon. It holds a bale and a half of Pro Mix, I have 3 plants. I'm allowed to grow 6 plants in my backyard. I can only grow 3 because my 3 plants are 21 feet by 7 feet. So that's how much space they fill, my 3 plants. So that's using the Canna food grade chemical fertilizers. And yeah, it's that I can flush. You know, it's easy to flush that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
All right. Fuck. I thought of a question like 5 minutes ago, and you guys are like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, blah, 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 blah. I know, we do it. It's our fault. I take full responsibility. I always get blamed.
Question, Al. What was the question?
Shut up, Marcel.
Yeah, that's a good question. What is the question?
That's the question, and the question is shut up, Marcel.
No, that's the answer.
The question is how do you get Marcel? Click.
Dr. Lee, sorry, Professor.
He's calling him a doctor
give
again.
Give us your opinion on food grade chemical versus organic.
There you go.
What's my opinion on it?
Yeah, how do you feel about food grade chemical versus organic?
Yes, tell us, Dr. Lee.
Professor,
Outdoors,
see, now you're doing it.
I did it on purpose,
Outdoors,
Ross.
yeah, I can see. I would recommend a lot of things like compost tea. You can definitely tweak those to have like a little higher nitrogen or a little lower nitrogen for what you do. That's what I do in my vegetable garden for the food I grow for my family. Indoors in a hydroponic setup, or even with just soil-based plants, I would typically use a synthetic fertilizer. I don't have like a hang up on it or anything like that. It works well. It's not expensive and it produces good results. You're correct on when you grow indoors, you're definitely going to want to flush. And that just improves everything when you do that. Let the plants use up the nutrients that they've got residual in their tissues. And if you time it just right, they're ready to harvest. They've used up all the excess and they're going to be fantastic.
And you can tell, and you can tell when you've done a really good job of flushing because you'll notice that all your leaves start to yellow and a lot of them start to fall off. And that's perfectly natural. I get a lot of people this time of year coming in and saying, oh my God, all my leaves are turning yellow and falling off. And it's like, relax. It's natural.
It's supposed to do
Let
that.
it happen.
Isn't today the first day of fall?
It is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
And it's just like the trees. They turn color and they fall off.
And this is the first show in 3 years in this time of year that I haven't been trimming while I've been sitting here.
Yeah, I got that tomorrow. Tomorrow and Sunday are going to be big.
I finished an hour before I came on the show.
Oh, you bastard!
I've been trimming since the last week of August.
Yeah. No, I just checked. This is another thing too for people who are growing indoors or out. When you want to check to see how far along your plant is, a lot of people look at different parts of the plant and they'll say, "Ooh, the hairs are turning red; it's ready," or "Oh, this is happening and it's ready." But the truth is that you need to magnify. You need to get in there and look at those trichomes. And when the trichomes are clear, it's you're too early. When they get cloudy, you're getting right near the right time. And again, this is me. And then when you get the first signs of amber in the trichomes, it's time to take it. You don't want them to go all amber colored because that's gone too far and now you're changing the chemical structure of the plant. And this is, again, going back to what Ethan Russo says, that chemical structure of the plant changes through its life cycle, not just when it's crossed with a different variety. It'll also, that variety, once it's been created, can change its chemical profile just with time. It can change its profile with temperature, humidity. All these things will affect your end crapshoot of cannabinoids and terpenes and all those things. So if you pick them too late, you're going to get a sleepy kind of smoke. If you pick them too early, you're going to get that really high THC uppity kind of smoke. But if you get them right in that sweet spot, that's when you get the best broad spectrum cannabinoid profile that's going to give you the best effect, in my opinion. This is just me.
That sounds right on the money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always.
As soon as I start seeing any amber, that's when I start to harvest.
Yeah.
Do you use like a jeweler's loupe or a magnifying glass when you're inspecting them?
Yeah, a little 60x loop.
I use
but
a
then I've got a 200x that I can take my laptop out with.
Oh, that's nice. I want to get one of those.
And then I can get right in and see the nitty gritty.
That's like a microscope. That's not like.
Well, that's what it is. It is a microscope.
Yeah.
So.
No, you can actually get blow up a single trichome into the big mushroom and see exactly where it is. I got to get one of those.
Yeah.
Are they cheap? Are they expensive?
Oh, they're fairly cheap. You can get them half decent prices. You can get knockoff ones for less than $100.
That's worth the money to me.
It is worth the money.
Is it possible to capture the image on your computer
and video?
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's I use that to
sure you can
to duplicate my isopropyl test.
Okay.
So when I did the isopropyl test, I was just using a regular microscope and a glass slide with collected trichomes, and what I was trying to do was basically time how fast the trichomes dissolved in isopropyl alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did it, I figured I must have blinked or something and missed it. So I had to turn around and do it again. And when I did it again, I knew my eyes were open and I saw exactly that it was instantaneous.
Yes.
That's when I realized that soaking it for a long period of time was not necessarily a good idea.
It's got its place. I mean, if you want to get the really broad spectrum, you want to get all the flavonoids. I know you get, chlorophyll.
You get all that chlorophyll too.
And yes, but I think even chlorophyll has its place in medicine. Okay, if you're looking for, and we can talk a little bit about decarboxylation if you want, because there's a lot of different opinions about decarboxylation too.
Oh yeah, but I eat sushi, so I get my chlorophyll from the seaweed.
No, yeah, that's true. Do you want to talk a little bit about decarboxylation and why people do it?
You got 5 minutes.
Really have time. I think it's something that we should save for another day.
Yeah, that's
another day. Okay,
that's a long conversation. We only got 5 minutes left here.
You see, I've been talking about cannabis for every day, for 24 hours a day for the last 15 years. So I just can't shut the fuck up. I'm sorry.
I want to give Lee a little bit of time to talk about what he's got coming up and where people can find his book. Although we just posted it.
Okay, yeah, you can pick it up on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles or any really good bookstore. It's Marijuana 101, Professor Lee's Introduction to Growing Grade A Bud. It's an introductory guide for if you don't know anything. This will answer all the questions you have so you can avoid a lot of beginner mistakes. The things that I ran into while I was learning to grow. And hopefully here in about a year, I'll have a new book out, which I have not yet named. But you can also read my articles I write for Weed World magazine and Grow magazine out of Germany if you happen to read in German. And I'm always online. You can look me up on Facebook or on Twitter at Professor Lee 420. And I'm happy to answer questions. I also I just got an email address at Weed World, and you can go onto their website and you can send me questions through that, and I'd be happy to answer them. And if I do, there's a really good chance you could read your question in the next article or the next magazine.
Oh, awesome!
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
A lot of fun. The only thing I didn't get to say when we were talking about jewelers, loops, and stuff is I've got a Nikon and I'm just buying a macro lens for it so I can go take pictures for the book. It's like $400 for the lens.
Nice.
But I'll get some nice pictures though.
Yeah, pricey though, aren't they?
They are, but I can see.
That's actually kind of reasonable for a good lens.
Yeah, well, it's still an investment. You'll use it again.
Have you played with the lenses that you can clip onto your cell phone? I've seen some pretty clear pictures come out of those.
I've seen some of those, yeah. I've also bought an adapter where I can turn my stock lens around on my camera. It gives me a teeny tiny little focus. Like you look at the back of an American penny, there's the Abraham Lincoln Memorial, and there's Abraham Lincoln sitting in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I can zoom in on that. You can clearly see him.
Cool.
So there's cheap alternatives that you can do, but I wanted just a nice, good, high quality one that I can take with me and get some really good shots with.
Cool.
They took our pennies away.
Yeah. No more pennies.
We
for
don't
you.
have pennies anymore.
I think I actually a couple of Canadian pennies laying around like in my junk drawer or something.
Well,
like that.
Oh, hang on to them. They're not making them anymore.
They're not making them, and they'll be paperweights
They're still
later.
not worth anything, but they
No,
might
but
someday.
hang on to them.
They'll be up to 2 cents one day.
Yeah.
So listen, guys, we are at the end of the show, and I wanted to make sure we give Gooey a shout out. Thank you very much, Gooey Rabinski.
Thanks, Gooey.
Yeah, you just it's spelt out as how it sounds, and you can Google him and see his articles in a lot of different magazines, and he's on the web, and just like Lee is. And when you get your book done, please let us know, Lee.
Oh, absolutely. I'll send you a copy.
Awesome. So we're going to say goodnight. We're going to listen to, I don't know, some Killing Time Band, some Royal Kush Band, the Monkees, Tragically Hip coming up, and whatever else this thing pulls out of here, because I'm taking my dog for a walk. We'll be here next week with the guys from Thompson Caribou. Yes. And it's my birthday as well, so we'll see how coherent I will
Happy
be.
birthday.
Thank you.
I'll bring a cake.
Yeah, you can bring a
Birthday
cake?
party. That means we'll have to have dabs.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're supposed to send me some dabs.
Well, it'll be
Well,
Happy
then-
Dab Day.
Little dab.
If you
yeah.
get dabs sent to you, then you have to save them for the show.
I don't
You
have a
can't
rig.
touch them
I don't
until
have a
your
rig.
birthday.
I don't have a rig, so they'll just be smears, as I call them.
Well, you'll still have to wait until your birthday.
I will.
Okay.
I will. And
We'll
on
hold you
that,
to that.
on that note, we're out of here. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Gooey. Thank you, Lee. Mary Jane, do you want to say anything before we go?
Yeah, you didn't forget me this time.
No,
Thanks, guys.
I didn't forget
See you
you.
next week.
You can see you sitting there smiling right in front of me.
Oh, be nice
Thanks,
next week. It is your birthday.
Next week. Yeah, next week. All right, guys, we're out of here.
All right,
Thanks for
peace out.
listening.
Peace, love, and hippie shit.
You like music, you like weed, well, we gonna be good friends indeed. This is how much I like more than smoking trees. They'll make you dance the do-si-do and teach you how the chiba grows. Smoke a bowl on the 420 radio show. On Lifestyle Radio.
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have